Hello, everybody out there. All right, it's Memorial Day weekend, and I spent some time up north, and I also spent some time at some family's house eating some supper. It was delightful. I also went to my memorial service right here in River Falls. It was a great one. Thank you so much. It was awesome. I absolutely loved it. And I'm just curious. Remember last week, what we had done is we kind of had a little conversation about how do you enter into all of these eating things and eating season things in order to stick to what you're trying to do and then actually stick to it? And then how do you navigate that? So if you're curious as to what I'm talking about because you don't quite know, jump on last week and take a look at that. We kind of dove into the idea of how do you best plan to eat at an event, whether it would be a picnic or a parade or maybe something you might have done this past weekend. Now, I just want you to understand that when I'm having conversations with people, remember, I've mentioned before that I have zero judgment when it comes to anything. And part of it is I used to live in a different type of a world where I ate whatever I felt like, and in my mind, it didn't bother me, and I didn't think that it had as big of an impact that it did. What I came to realize once I started cleaning up my diet, and when I say that, I started eating much more whole food and less processed food, less sugar, less wheat, less all of that. I started to understand that maybe my body was a little reactive to it, and maybe I was having some sort of reaction or increase in for my reason, joint pain. Or maybe I had a little brain fog and something like that. And so once I kind of cleaned things up, I realized really quickly that when I did reintroduce them back into my lifestyle or into my diet, whether it would be a meal or longer, which I'll explain in just a second, I noticed I didn't feel very good. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you might have perhaps maybe this past weekend, well, maybe you partook in something you weren't intending on, or some of the clients that I work with, they'll come in and they're funny. They'll like put their head down and they'll kind of slowly walk and be like, I did something. And I'm like, well, what'd you do? And they kind of chuckle and they're like, well, you told me before that my body was a little reactive to wheat. Well, I got into it. And I'm like, okay, all right, you got into some wheat. What happened? And to me, that's the best part. It's the what happened and what did you learn from it? Because you're going to notice perhaps maybe you had an interesting symptom arise that maybe you didn't realize was correlated to eating that type of item. To me, that's an amazing win because now you're honing in and you're really fine tuning what might be causing issues for you. And so it's kind of a good thing. So again, mine tends to be wheat or seed oils. They tend to be a little reactive. So I had a situation. We went out to eat yesterday and I'm looking on the menu again, like I do. I plan ahead. I try to make sure that I have something that I can eat. I got a burger and I had some cheese on it. And I also, I got a side salad and I chose one of the dressings that they had. So I already know I got some seed oils and some things. I don't know the sourcing of the meat. And I also allowed myself to have one tater tot. So again, I personally like tater tots, okay? That's one of my downfalls. I love crunchy little tater tots. They're phenomenal. Now, what did I do from that? Did that totally impact me? It actually didn't, because overall, I try to eat, like I kind of mentioned before, maybe some of these other lives, I try to eat for the most part as whole as I can on any ever given basis. That allows me, if I'm going to be doing something when I'm out and about, I'm not going to necessarily have this big guilt trip on myself to say, oh my gosh, you got into something. I might taste it, but I try not to go further than that. Here's why. My body, my brain, and the centers that totally get tripped up, there's these amazing things called dopamine receptors in my brain. They love sugar. And so I've learned over the years that I have to be really careful. If I get into sugar, I will start to crave it a little bit more and my body will be like, you got to eat this. And so I have a very slippery slope and a very fine line. And the only reason I know this is because I have partaken and I have practiced. And then I'm able to figure out what are my triggers and where am I at. So I knew I'm going to eat one tater tot. I'm not eating any more than that. And I'm going to kind of stay away from some of the other things that could be causing issue for me. I am not going to feel guilt about it. I'm actually making choices. I can choose what I want to do. And I encourage all of my clients, choose what you want to do. learn from it as an opportunity to say, you know what, that wasn't worth it. Perhaps if you get into something and you don't just eat one cupcake, for example, maybe your thing happens to be, maybe you reacted with sugar, and you know you're going to eat it and your tummy's going to hurt right away and you're not going to feel good and you're going to get a headache. Maybe don't eat the second cupcake, right? Learn where you're at, learn what you need to do, and then move on. Don't guilt, don't look back, and just say, okay, the next time, maybe I'll eat less of it, or maybe I'm going to choose not to. You're going to determine your path, and you're going to listen to your body for the signals that it's going to be giving you depending on what you're doing. So I guess that's all I want to talk about tonight, is just really making sure that do the best you can, right? And then realize if you tend to fall off, try to understand the why behind. And then just don't necessarily go guilt on yourself. That's only going to cause more of an issue. But maybe make some choices, maybe do a little bit more planning, and worst case scenario, go ahead and give me a jingle. I'd be more than happy to talk you through it and kind of talk about it. So I also want to remind you, we're having a really fun little workshop. We're going to be doing it up at Tangled in Hudson on Thursday. It's going to be from 5 to 6. We're going to talk about hair loss. And there's a little bit more to it than just it falling out. And so I'd love to be able to share with you kind of maybe some of the why behind it, as well as some of the little things that you could possibly try to introduce into your lifestyle that may or may not make things a little bit better. So with that, I want you to register. I'll drop a link in the comments below in order for you to be able to sign up and register. Space is limited. Tangled is awesome, but there's only so much room. We can't pile everybody in there. So I would love for you to come to that. And if you are curious about what I do, I'm going to encourage you to check out the website. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, I would love it. So go ahead and you can schedule a discovery call and we'll see if we fit. Otherwise, I want you to have the last part of your Memorial Day weekend to just be one for you to chill, get reset, and get ready to hit your day tomorrow. Have a wonderful time, and I'll see you next week.